We've really come to a place here in 2023 where there's no going back to where we were, certainly in 2019 or even 2020. We have 5 generations in the workplace now that have very, very different backgrounds, purposes, expectations, reasons for working. But I do see some leaders that are really trying to go, well, let's go back to the way things were. It really worked back then. I liked it then. Well, the problem is that a lot of the workplace didn't like it that way. So what I'm seeing is the leaders that resist are the ones that are struggling the most. You know, during the pandemic, 65% of the workers said the pandemic made them rethink the role of work in their lives. That's 2/3 of the people walking around. Half of them said they questioned the purpose of their job. And then, of course, those of us who know Gallup's work around engagement, the 2022 results were 21%. 1/5 of the workers said they were really engaged in their work, and 1/3 said they were thriving in their well-being. A lot of work to do here. If you start to pay attention to this, you can't help but get the urgency of this, how much the world has really changed. We believe that the world of work ought to be noble. It ought to be a place where people realize their potential, they get to play, they get to become their best. They're proud of who they are, and they're proud of the company they work for. And that's just not true for a lot of people in the world. And so what I've come to is if I can help organizations to steward their journey as leaders consciously, by giving them the best practices and way forward as I can, keep pulling them up, that's where I want to be. Organizations need a whole set of strategies and a playbook to be able to give their best performance and be fulfilled in their work and their relationships. And that they can also help start to realize their own potential, because if you give them that, they will persevere alongside you. They'll do almost anything with and for you if you give them those basic things. What's been interesting from my research is when you look at the decades that have led up to where we have been, it's been this constant surge for more productivity, do more with less. Every organization is seemingly understaffed, and people feel this constant need to work harder and more to be able to keep up with what is being asked of them. And so we find ourselves at this very, very interesting place where people have said, enough is enough. And we can thank, in part, the pandemic for that. I'm a conscious capitalist. I belong to an organization called Conscious Capitalism. This is a global movement. Part of what we look at as a conscious capitalist is higher purpose. And so when we look at we in business, we have the opportunity to look at our business through a fresh gaze and see how can I help more people along the way, not just my customers, not just my employees, but everybody along the way. And the more that you can look for with fresh eyes, with novelty, how can I better serve? It enlivens you. It gives you this sense of, oh, what we're doing is powerful and fun and amazing. When you find a way to make your business more beautiful, you elevate its design and you add in that beauty, there's really no end to what you can do. So beautiful. So that's the G for the gumption. We seldom grow when we're comfortable. It never happens when we're sitting on the couch eating bonbons, having popcorn, watching a movie on Friday night with our loved ones, right? It happens when we have been really challenged to our edge. And that's what the pandemic did for a lot of us. This is really interesting. Plagues reorder society. It's really, really interesting. And that goes back to the catalyzing change. So when you look at just a couple of things, the bubonic plague of the 1300s gave rise to the Renaissance. That Black Death gave rise to that beauty right there. The Spanish influenza of 1918 gave rise to the Roaring Twenties. The pandemic, or the COVID pandemic, gave rise to the Great Resignation. People saying, I quit, I don't want to do this anymore, I choose something else. So now we have the workplace of the people, and they vote with their feet. Yes, I want to stay, no, I don't. They've made their demands really clear. They want meaningful work in a company that aligns with their values and something they can be proud of, their purpose, where's it going, etc. And they now that they've gained that independence of stepping back from being able to have more control of their lives and their schedules, etc. from the pandemic times, they don't want to go back to that and give all that back over. When there was the shift from work to home, we had to necessarily give a degree of autonomy and trust. And so so the pandemic has upended how, when, and where work gets done. And this is really, really interesting. So now work has been reframed in the context of the whole of the person merging with their personal and their professional lives. And they're no longer willing to organize everything, as I said, around this notion of what's work. As newly empowered workers are more able to set their own terms to work around other commitments in their lives, and not a moment too soon, the set 8-hour workday is an artifact of the original assembly line. I got to see literally figureheads from countries from all over the world coming to Rio de Janeiro to talk about what do we do about this climate problem. It made me pay attention then to the importance of sustainability, environmentalism, etc., such that I wrote my thesis for my master's on the very light subject of the political, economic, and social factors that were contributing to Amazonian deforestation. People want to see their leaders take a stand on sustainability. They want to know, what are you doing about this? What are we doing about this? And they will opt in or out of working for you depending on what you have to say about that. But the problem is now is if you don't say something about what you're doing on it, people think you're not doing anything about it, and then they get upset with you and they leave, whether they're an employee or a customer, or even sometimes an investor. How do we address what these people are presenting and saying they want from us? And I'm saying that one of the best things we can do is give them a sense of meaning. When people don't feel like their lives are meaningful, which includes their work, very dire things happen. You know, when you start helping people steward their highest potential, now you've turned them on and you've got this dynamic energy source. There's a way for managers to be able to talk to, support, appreciate, and encourage and teach their managers or their people such that they feel that sense of my work is meaningful. But you have to teach it. It's not necessarily natural. It's obvious once you do it, but it's not necessarily natural. So that's what I developed in that program. The thing about this, when you think about how do you create a shared sense of purpose inside an organization, when you do this, you move away from those simplistic industrial models of we do this thing to be productive, to make money, etc., to something where there's a beautiful interdependency that people feel connected to each other in a dynamic, beautiful way that colors their lives. So what we're looking to do these days is really to create and look at your organization as a living organization. It's living and breathing. You have to nurture it. You have to make sure everybody feels connected to it. At this point, you know, purpose is no longer nice to have. Really, where we are in the world of evolution is people expect you to know what your purpose is, for you to articulate it, to invite them in, or they may be repelled by it. But either way, it's important. So it is about stewarding those kinds of meaningful connections among your people, your employees, everyone, right? And to foster this sense of belonging and mattering. And what's really interesting is the research shows is what you really need to be able to do well is to facilitate collaboration. What we need is this new leader that has a way of organizing work that harnesses the strengths and knowledge across and even outside the organization and make that shift from the individual contribution to the collaborative, collective whole. So that's where it gets hard for people. And what I love about what I'm getting to do is helping people to do that, helping people to learn how to do that. There's very few things that are as motivating as somebody saying to you, I see this amazing potential in you. Let me go have you do this. Some of the best things that happened in my life is when somebody has said that to me that I had no idea I could do those things. But they saw it and they gave me the opportunity. Now, if you want an engaged workforce, there you go. One of the worst things that can happen is for people to feel like they go to work. Actually, I've had people say this, but they go to work and nobody even notices that they're there, and worse, they didn't notice that they weren't there. So when we start looking though at how do we look at a collective effort to reach an outcome, so activities are not evaluated, outcomes are, what that does is it gives people the flexibility to find the best way to do it. And sometimes you're going to be really dazzled by that, and they're going to do it in a way that's way bigger and better than you could have ever imagined. I can tell you most organizations, the leaders have no idea the extent to which their organizations are run by fear. If an employee brings something to you because they're saying something's wrong, it's not working, what are they telling you? I'm committed to this place. I care about this place. I'm not complaining. We cannot rely on a leader, a set of leaders in an organization to make all the decisions and such. We need the collective intelligence of the whole to be able to keep this train moving strong. So if the employees are center stage, that means that if you can activate their sense of intrinsic motivation and their purpose, you've got something that can really steer your ship. So doing that hard work of being able to be the leader worth following is part of what this comes to. So this, it becomes this whole thing of this becomes your beacon. And if you do this, and if you're really strong to your purpose, somebody else can have the same set of services and products as you, but they can't out-purpose you. In the consulting that I do inside companies is to help them to be able to map out their stakeholders and then see how they're meaningfully connected. When you do that, and everybody's bought in on this idea of purpose and how they're connected to it, now you have created your own parliament of purpose. And it's really powerful, and it's very individual, it's very specific. And now you have the ability to literally lift all of those communities that you touch in a much bigger way than you could you as an organization, because everybody's rowing the same way in the boat.